Let's make some air dry clay keychains today. These are easy to make and great for beginners. These are the materials we'll need for sculpting. I'll be using DOS air dry clay to make my charms. When working with DOS, using slip is a must. Slip is a paste made by mixing clay and water. It acts like a glue and helps attach clay pieces together. To make slip, I shred the clay into tiny thin pieces, add a bit of water, and let it soak overnight. By the next morning, it's much easier to mix everything into a smooth paste. I have my X-Acto knife and a clay tool set with silicone tips on one end and dotting tools on the other. These tools are essential for me. I use them in almost every clay project. I also use acrylic stamp blocks whenever I sculpt my charms. They give me a better grip and are super helpful for pressing down clay. Lastly, we'll need eye pins with screws or head pins. These will be added to the charms so we can attach them to the key rings or ball chains later. Now let's get started. I always condition my clay by kneading it for a few minutes before use. If it feels a bit dry, I add some water and keep kneading until I get a smooth consistency. Conditioning your clay really helps to prevent cracking when it dries. Let's make an egg charm. I'm starting with an oval-shaped ball of clay and flattening it with my fingers. I often dip my fingers in a bit of water to smooth out the surface. To make the yolk, roll out a smaller ball of clay and gently press it down to flatten the bottom. To attach two pieces of clay together, score both surfaces, add a bit of slip, then gently press them into place. Here I'm smoothing everything out again. If you don't plan on sanding your charms later, make sure to spend more time smoothing the surfaces while the clay is still soft. Now that we're done sculpting, I'm taking an eye pin and gently twisting it into the charm. Next is an onigiri, which is a Japanese rice ball. Start with a ball of clay and shape it into a triangle. Then flatten a strip of clay to make the seaweed and press it onto the onigiri. Here, I'm trimming the excess seaweed and using a silicone clay tool to shape the edges. To make a fish cake charm, start with a ball of clay and gently flatten it. I'm using a clay tool to indent the edges and create a flower-like shape. Roll out a thin coil of clay for the swirl detail and carefully place it on top. For an egg sushi charm, take some clay and shape it into a rounded rectangle for the rice. For the egg, flatten a piece of clay and cut it into a rectangle. Score both sides and use slip to attach the two pieces together. Roll out a thin coil of clay and flatten it to create the seaweed strip. Just like for all the charms, I'm taking an eye pin and gently twisting it into the charm. For a strawberry charm, take a ball of clay and shape it into a teardrop. For the leaf, I'm using my X-Acto knife to cut a star shape from a flattened piece of clay. For a pancake charm, roll out a few balls of clay and flatten them into discs. Score and use slip to attach the pancake layers together. I'm using the back of my knife to indent some details on the pancake. Cut out a small square of clay for the butter and place it on top. To make a bear charm, take a ball of clay and press it down slightly to form an oval shape. Roll 2 balls of clay for the ears. Score both surfaces, add slip, and blend the ears into place using a silicone tool. Lastly, make a flat oval shape for the snout and attach it to the face. To make a heart envelope charm, flatten a piece of clay and cut out a rectangle for the envelope. Cut out a triangle for the flap and place it at the top. Take a small ball of clay and use a clay tool to shape it into a heart. Now that we're done sculpting, let everything dry for 1 to 2 days. Flip the pieces halfway so they dry evenly. Now that everything's dry, I'm going to check if the eye pins are secure. Some of them feel pretty secure, they don't move when I try pulling them out, but others are a bit loose. For the loose ones, we can fix that with a little super glue. Make sure to wear gloves and read the safety precautions on the glue bottle before use. Once the glue is dry, the eye pins should be very secure. Head pins are usually more durable than eye pins, but you'll need to create your own loop using pliers. Next, I'll be lightly sanding each charm. This step is optional. If you've already smoothed the pieces well, you may not need to sand at all. If you do sand, make sure to wear goggles, a mask, and work in a well-ventilated room. I also place a damp tissue to catch some of the fine dust. Let's move on to painting. I'll be using acrylic paint, paintbrushes, and dotting tools. For fine details, I like using micron pens. For glazing, I'll be using this clay varnish by Montmart. Clay varnish isn't as durable as UV resin, but it's less toxic and easier to use since it air dries. These charms can be prone to scratches, so if you're planning to sell them or use them frequently, you may want to consider using UV resin instead. I'm glazing one side first, letting it dry, then flipping it over to glaze the other side. This step is optional, but if you have a rack, you can use some wire to hang the charms while they dry. Hanging them helps you apply a more even layer of glaze. This varnish is thick, so I only applied 1 coat. Now we can assemble the keychains. You can use either ball chains or key rings. For ball chains, attach the chain directly to the eye pin and you're done. If the loop is too small, add a jump ring to the eye pin first. If you're using key rings, you'll also need to use a jump ring to connect the charm. Now we're done, here are the finished keychains.